Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars, Astro Portraits. I'm Ralph Dimitrius, one of the calendar's astrologers. This is part of our music series of portraits. We do these every Tuesday. We do the forecast every Friday. But we've been doing a series on musicians, and it's been a fascinating series recently. And we've done a lot of portraits about different people. But when you see the patterns that show up in people's charts when they're in a specific field, it's fascinating. Actors and musicians are so different in their approaches. It's really fascinating. The person this week is Alicia Keys. She is born January 25th, 1981. She was born at 8:45 a.m. New York, New York, which typically means Manhattan. She's born in the year of the metal monkey. Kind of interesting, which is typically to be a very fun year, but metal is a little quicker, a little sharper. When you look at her chart, it's interesting, the things that are going on here, because there's a lot of air in her chart. Now, she's got the sun in Aquarius. She's got the moon in Libra, two air signs. The sun and the moon are trining each other within 2 degrees, okay? And she's got Pisces rising. And that's kind of the thing that makes the chart so interesting, because air signs, it's intellectual, it's all ideas, it's communication, and Pisces is all about being one with the universe, being spiritual, being connected, being compassionate. It's a very, very creative sign. Also, she has Pisces rising, and really, most of her chart is above the horizon. This is a person whose life is lived out there in the world, okay? I mean, there's no major planets below the horizon in her chart. None. Everything's up there in the social world. She's really very much an artist of this time, where many of these people's lives are all out in the open. They've lived with social media, they've lived with computers, But that does not mean she does not have great depth, because her sun is at 5 degrees Aquarius. Her south node, her reincarnational connections, are at 10 degrees Aquarius. She has brought great gifts into this world with her. Now, sometimes when people have the south node conjunct their sun, it means they're carrying a big karmic debt. But it also means that they have developed wonderful talents that they bring in as a gift. These exceptional people. She also has the sun with the south node, and Mars and Mercury and a minor asteroid, Estrella, all in the 12th house, the house of imagination, the house of the studio, the house of the protected space. Traditionally they said, this is the area of restrictions and prisons and hospitals, because it was away from the world. But yeah, in our world, where people are more separate in some ways, it's also the place of the studio. Many artists have very active 12th houses. When you look at the charts of movie directors, the 12th house is filled, and many times that's where the sun is. They most feel most comfortable on a set where they're kind of controlling the world around them. They have this tremendous ability to imagine, to visualize, and then make it come into creation. She thrives in the studio, thrives. All in Aquarius with technology. She was born for, she just waited for this time to come along where she could be in the studio with technology and bring her talents from other lifetimes. Her talents, obviously, in music and writing and communication. Now, the moon is in Libra, okay? So the moon, like I said, is trine the sun, so there's a very easy harmony between her sun and her moon. The moon is conjunct Saturn and Jupiter, okay? So Saturn and Jupiter were within 1 degree of each other. Remember, every 20 years, Saturn and Jupiter come together. And typically, the financial cycle from that period of time kind of winds down at the conjunction, because Saturn is compression, Jupiter is expansion. They come together. What happens? It just kind of neutralizes for a little bit. Nothing's going down, nothing's going up, and then it starts the new cycle. Jupiter moves on because Jupiter moves faster. When Saturn and Jupiter are conjunct like this, you've come to a balancing point, but it's Saturn in Libra. Saturn's more powerful. Saturn is exalted. This means that the moon, which is not especially strong in Libra, is with Saturn, who was very, very strong in Libra. Saturn is the ultimate dependable, fair-minded colleague. Saturn in Libra is this position that says, when I work with other people, I incorporate their ideas into mine, and I share my ideas to them, and I work very hard to make sure it's fair and harmonious. A really helpful thing in a musician to make sure that it's harmonious. And if you listen to her music, it is very harmonious. She's a wonderful musician. She is not, this is not a person who plays hard rock or discordant music. She plays, she produces beautiful music. Wonderful stories. The Saturn in Libra is a big part of that. The Jupiter being there means that, she can incorporate these two energies together, the two biggest planets in the solar system. They're both in that 8th house, the house in which we manage our shared resources, with the moon. So she's someone who, she will have a challenge with making up her mind or allowing her emotions to come into kind of focus, because she's balancing between what other people want and what she wants. When a Libran says to you, well, what do you think? Doesn't mean they don't have an opinion. It means they have an opinion, but they want to take your opinion into account. We always say with a Libran, don't say, where do you want to go have dinner? Because it will take forever. Better yet, say, I was thinking of going to, and then let them chime in terms of if they think that's a good idea. And if they don't think it's a good idea, they will let you know, and then you can negotiate from that point. But just saying that, where do you want to go to dinner? Now they want to find out from you, where do you want to go to dinner? Because before they really voice their opinion, they want to find out where you're at. They don't want to suggest seafood if, you really want steak, kind of thing. The other player in the chart that's really interesting is that she has Venus, right? Remember, all of the stuff in Libra is very important. What is Venus doing? Venus is in Capricorn. Venus in Capricorn is actually, in terms of it's very aware of its social position in all of its social interactions. It tends to make her more restrained. Remember, Venus has a lot to do with how she manages her art. It tends to keep her a little bit more formal. And she, after all, her main instrument is the piano. Saturn is all about woods. What's a piano? It's a big hunk of wood, a bunch of strings. She's a metal monkey. Metal strings. The piano is kind of perfect for her. So it tends to make her be a bit more formal. Her midheaven is in the 10th house. Now remember, when you're using whole sign houses, the house where you find the midheaven, that MC, will tell you what's the focus in their life. If it's the 9th house, it's all about knowledge. It's about sharing knowledge. If it's 10th house, it's about reputation. It's about standing up, being counted, being true to your prime directive. And then in the 11th house, it's about your network. It's about your communications with others. It's about your ability to earn money. It's the idea that it's not what you know, but who you know that makes you money. So that's the 11th house. Her having Venus in Capricorn in the 11th house means that she will tend to be very successful. But her midheaven is in the 10th house. For her, it was really very much about being successful, being recognized as being successful. What's interesting is that she has Neptune there. Neptune conjunct the midheaven, 18 degrees to 23 degrees. Okay, Neptune at 23. So she wanted to be successful in something that had a global influence, because Neptune is about imagination, it's about global visualization, and it is global. Remember, it takes 180 some odd years, 181 years, I think, to go around the planet, go around the sun. So it deals with long generations. How long is my music going to be around? Well, with Neptune at the midheaven, it's going to be around a long time. Right? That was very important to her. Interestingly, her part of fortune, which has to do with her interface, is in Scorpio, in the 9th house. That's kind of interesting. It doesn't mean that in terms of, the traveling. It was through traveling, through managing people. She has Juno there in Scorpio. Her marriage, this is all kind of important to her. It's very important in terms of her success. But another way in which you use the part of fortune, this is cool, is you use the part of fortune as the first house in what's called a fortuna chart. A fortuna chart is where do you make your fortune? So now here she'd have Scorpio as her first house, right? Scorpio is her first house. That would put Leo as her midheaven. She would be known as a performer, right? But she would tend to earn her money through the 11th house, where she has Vesta in Virgo. Vesta in Virgo is a very strong position because it has a lot to do with having a strong sense of mission. And natally, she has Vesta in the 7th house, just opposite the rising. So Vesta is angular in her chart, right? But it's Virgo, so we have to look at Mercury. Where's Mercury? Mercury's in the 12th house. She will tend to make her money through her ability to communicate, to write. Mercury in the studio in ways that relate to large numbers of people. Aquarius. Mercury in Aquarius is the exalted position. It's external. It's the colleague. It's the best friend. It's brilliant. And realize that Mercury in Aquarius is fundamental to this chart. Why? First of all, it's in the Gogolon spot, which is the area just above the ascendant. Okay, usually about 20 degrees away from the ascendant. Hers is just about 20 degrees, 20 to 30 degrees. She has Mercury there and she has Mars there. Okay, so Mars and Mercury, the planets where we get into stuff. It's the kids. We get into stuff. We move things around. Are right at the rising. She's someone who gets into situations and really gets involved. It's in the Gogolon spot, has a lot of leverage. But it's Mercury at exalted, which strengthens tremendously that Mars in Aquarius. Tremendously. And also the Sun in Aquarius. Because whenever you have a planet in a sign with a planet with a dignity, it assumes the power of that. In this case, it's the exaltation. It's external. It brings her energy out into the world. The 12th house, her imagination. This brings her imagination out into the world, which is exactly what her music does. Her imaginings have been projected out to the world. Okay? It goes back to that 11th house in the Fortuna chart. That's how she's made her money. She's made a lot more for her money probably from her recordings. The 12th house, electronic. I mean, I've heard her music many times. I've never seen her in person. I've heard it through electronics. This is one of the reasons why Aquarius has become such a prominent sign in recent years. It has to do with technology. Now, a really fun feature of her chart, a lovely, lovely feature, is that her rising is 7 degrees Pisces. Okay, right below the horizon, which the first visible planet is a nodal point. It's a lunar point, not a nodal point. A lunar point called Selena. This is there's the black moon Lilith, there's the white moon Selena. When people tend to have Selena near the rising, when they appear upon the scene, everyone just smiles. Everyone just goes, oh, Selena's here. And she's one of these people that when she appears in the room, everyone kind of goes, oh, look who's here. It's like, it's graceful, it's glowing, it's just a lovely feature. It's funny how all the people I know who have Selena Rising have that quality. It's a really interesting point. The dark moon Lilith has so much more to do with about kind of deep, kind of, fundamental energy, and she has that up in the 9th house conjunct her Juno, her marriage asteroid. But she has Selena rising. Now, I think that black moon Lilith tends to hide out more. With Selena, she can be right out there on the surface, especially in this chart. Now, we have the moon, Saturn, exalted, Jupiter. We have that in Pluto. We have that group there. And that's all trine, all that stuff in Aquarius in the 12th house. So a lot of ideas, a lot of connections, right? We have Neptune at the midheaven, a desire to share this out into the world. Venus in Capricorn, a certain formal sense. She wants to do this in kind of a formal way. But then below the horizon are all the asteroids. We have Selena, of course, which is a lunar point. Second house, we have Pallas Athena. Third house, we have Chiron, the healing energy. And there's something about Chiron and Taurus in the third house. She probably loves reading about health, about natural health, especially about foods. The idea of, let your medicine be your food and let your food be your medicine is kind of like right there with her. She has Hygeia there, which relates to health, also in Taurus. This is someone who really looks at food as a healing component in her life. She has Ceres in the fifth house in Cancer. It may have been that her mom was a great shepherd and she's passed that on to her, shepherd of the family. And the North Node in the sixth house in Leo. So keeping people around her healthy through food, through cooking to them, through taking care of them in that way is something that gives her a lot of satisfaction. And then Vesta, final asteroid. We must have another one floating around here, right? Do we? Juno is the only one. Juno is the only asteroid above the horizon. But Vesta at the seventh house sun, the desire to really be of service to her partner, to really be, to find someone who wants to work with her is very important. The Pisces rising, they want a partner who will work with them. And she has Vesta there, so she strongly believes in that. But if you really want to understand her chart, just look at that South Node conjunct the Sun in the 12th house with Mercury exalted. This is brilliance that she's brought through from other lifetimes and has the opportunity here to use. So fascinating chart. Alicia Keys, very talented artist, very talented musician, and part of our series of astro portraits about musicians. So that's it. Come see us on Tuesdays when we do these portraits. Come see us on Fridays when we do the forecast. Right now, we're actually in 2022 right now, but we have the 2023 calendars. And make sure when you're listening to the forecast, you're checking out the day planner or seeing what's going on in the blocks. So you have a good idea of what's going on. You can find the calendars at planetarycalendar.com. You can find our forecast and portraits at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube, and please subscribe. It's a big help to us, and I hope you found this illuminating. Thanks so much. See you next time.